Mr. Minister, distinguished Estonians and other friends, I'm delighted to be here. Thanks for the invitation. It's very nice to be here discussing these issues, and all that Minister said I really much recognize in our country as well. I promise to share some views of our country's governance, particularly at the municipal level. As we all know, world events affect daily life of our municipalities, in Finland and in Estonia alike. They affect municipalities, cities, regions of the world altogether. At the same time, these are the places where many future solutions are created. Services, innovations, and new ways of doing things. Estonia is a great example of a country that is boldly looking to the future and is able to move quickly in everyday reforms. That is why I'm particularly happy to be here in Tallinn, speaking with you today. I have a background as a mayor of the city of Tampere, the third largest city in Finland, and back then we did some very good cooperation with our dear sister city Tartu for a long time, and we even have the symbols of the sister city cooperation between Finland and Estonia. In my home city Tampere we have Tartu Park, and in Tartu we have Tampere Maja, which is a symbol of cooperation between sister cities. I think it's very valuable that we have this kind of city-to-city and country-to-country cooperation, and we aim at learning from each other and doing things together. To start, I'd like to talk about the turmoil facing municipalities in many countries. The events and trends of our time are creating many challenges for our municipalities. We Finns like to think of our country as a success story, and rightly so. We have a good reason to be proud of Finland, of its growth and development, and of our stable society. However, as in many other countries, we too are facing many challenges. We have built a welfare state, but the past few years have seen us struggling to maintain it. We have known for a long time that we have become the Japan of Europe, in the sense that our population is aging. At the same time, Finland's national debt has grown, which is one of the worries that we try to tackle at the moment. Our society is in a new situation and needs major reforms. Russia's brutal invasion of Ukraine has shocked us in all the ways, but it's also causing knock-on effects throughout the economies of Europe, including ours. In this challenging situation, Finland's government must find a path that will safeguard the future of our welfare state. This year, an administrative reform entered into force in Finland, and we have been working on that for decades, if you have followed our decision-making. We moved to the responsibility for organizing healthcare, social welfare and rescue services from more than 300 municipalities to about 20 well-being services counties in the beginning of this year. This also involved transferring half of municipal budgets to the new counties, a big amount of personnel, of agreements. It was a huge reform for us. This year has been the start of a new era for us, as this new layer of administration has begun to establish itself and look for new ways of doing things. The new well-being services counties are facing many challenges. Counties need to shorten treatment backlogs that ballooned during COVID. They also need to improve preventative care to reduce pressure on specialized health care. And at the same time, their finances are in deficit and they need to find big savings. They want to take a more human-centered approach to services and take advantage of digitalization, but they don't have enough personnel. We are lacking personnel in many parts of the country right now. And as we speak, the counties are working hard to find a solution to all these challenges. Though the situation is challenging in many ways, I believe that these kinds of periods of change are also opportunities for reinvention. We must find new best practices and make the most of them. We must take full advantage of the opportunities offered by technology and digitalization. And we must find new human-centered ways of doing things. And we must remember that reforming administration alone is not enough. We must now focus on building services that will support our aging population and the generations to come. My ministry is supporting this work and is carefully shaping the guidance of well-being services counties in cooperation with the counties. Well, to look at the municipalities, the establishment of the well-being services counties also changed the role of Finnish municipalities. In Finland, as we talk about welfare state, actually the welfare state has been almost the same as a welfare municipality. The municipalities have had all the responsibilities related to people's everyday life. And now that the social and healthcare services have moved away, it has been a big change for the municipalities as well. They are now much more focused on education, culture and economic development and developing the land around them. About half of the budgets of municipalities now go to educational and cultural services, schools, libraries and other educational and cultural institutions. This is a major change of focus. In some municipalities, this has caused financial difficulties due to the changes in the financial system. Other municipalities are facing or will soon face an unexpected reality. They are now meant to focus more on services for children and young people, but not many children are being born in the municipalities, or many of them. At the same time, other municipalities and cities are growing rapidly and facing completely different challenges. For example, having to invest in schools and early education centers. There are altogether 309 municipalities in Finland. The smallest is with around 700 inhabitants, and the biggest, Helsinki, is getting closer to 700,000 inhabitants. So it's a huge difference between the sizes and the capabilities of the cities. And it's not surprised that they face very different realities. All of this begs the question, can municipalities continue to function in their current form? In other words, based on a model of uniform municipalities. Should all municipalities be squeezed into the same mold with the same expectations? Our government's answer is no. We must be bold in seeking different solutions for different municipalities. We must also take measures to support every municipality in their new role and let them bloom in their own way. But first, let's take a step back. What is actually going on in Finnish municipalities? The Ministry of Finance has published a report on the differentiation of municipalities. The report is thorough and provides a clear picture of what is going on in Finland. Our large cities are growing. People are moving to them from elsewhere in Finland and from abroad. This is particularly true in the triangle formed by Helsinki, Tampere and Turku, the big city triangle. It contains satellite municipalities also that offer more affordable housing, have attractive transport connections and are close to the services of large cities. A special feature of Helsinki metropolitan area or capital region is the rapid development of the cities of Vantaa and Espoo, the latter of which is now a city with over 300,000 inhabitants. So it's not a very small neighboring city anymore. Outside of the triangle formed by Helsinki, Tampere and Turku, we have regional centers and regional cities that are trying to keep their populations on a growth track. On the periphery of these regional centers and cities, we have municipalities with smaller populations that make up a significant number of Finland's 300 or so municipalities. To give you the picture, about 14% of these municipalities have fewer than 2,000 inhabitants, and about one-third of them, or 100 municipalities, have fewer than 4,000 inhabitants. According to the report, the differentiation that is taking place is a fragmentation. We no longer have one typical municipality. Differentiation is leading to diversification. Not all small municipalities are in financial difficulties. They are often well taken care of by the system of central government transfers of local government. The system safeguards the ability of municipalities to provide services, which is as it should be. However, small municipalities are vulnerable to many kinds of changes and may not have the resources to respond to them. Personnel turnover and retirement may trigger risks, and a municipality may not have enough economic vitality and room for maneuver to adapt to a new situation. Large municipalities are not immune to change either. We have long had a procedure for municipalities in crisis. The procedure uses various measures to balance the finances of municipalities that are struggling. The worry with respect to this procedure is that some larger cities are getting close to the crisis thresholds set in the Local Government Act. Indebtedness is a particular concern in larger cities. On the other hand, these cities have been making investments to meet the needs of growing populations, and they have strong tax revenues. This does not mean that they are free from risk still. Massive changes have taken place in society over the past years and decades. I'm sure we are all familiar with the megatrend of migration to cities and increasing urbanization. This has also had an impact on large cities. Immigration and migration have increased the demand for teaching, transport, and housing. Cities are under a great deal of pressure to respond to this demand. For example, my home city, Tampere, has grown by leaps and bounds in recent years. Tampere has had to and has wanted to invest in this growth. Transport projects like the recently completed new tram are major investments that the biggest cities are right now doing. Investments like this have changed the face of the city and will continue to do so for a long time to come. The tram project has gone through many challenging stages, but it's also already clear that it's a success. And to give the picture, the surveys placed Tampere at the top of the list of desirable places to live. Actually, the number one wanted destination most wanted to live in, and these kinds of investments boost the development also. People are also attracted to the good location and straightforward attitude to life. And the new tram is an important investment in also in a more sustainable and well-functioning future for the city. Now that we have talked about the challenges that we face, I'd like to move on to talk about the solutions. Our government's view is that the many changes taking place require many different solutions. This is the only way that every city and municipality can retain their economic vigor and continue to provide their residents the foundation for a good life. First, we must change how we do things. This government believes that we must not only recognize the differentiation of municipalities, but also allow for it in a controlled manner. Given the challenging situation we find ourselves in, we have also launched a program to cut bureaucracy, for example, with respect to the tasks of municipalities. This will allow municipalities to organize services more smoothly without compromising the fundamental rights of their inhabitants. We are also planning to remove barriers to digitalization. We all know that cutting bureaucracy is not always easy, even though we probably all share the good aim. It has also been tried in Finland many times before. If you'll forgive a slight exaggeration, one previous attempt found just one norm that people were willing to get rid of. It concerned solariums, so this gives you the picture how difficult it might be. However, I believe that times and attitudes have changed, and all of us, citizens and representatives of administration alike, have learned to expect things to run smoothly. And the pandemic taught us that it is possible to find solutions quickly. I'm confident that now is a time to look for unnecessary bureaucratic norms and test ways of getting rid of them. This will take cooperation, and we are working closely with the municipal sector to find and dismantle these kinds of norms. Second, this government believes in a strong urban policy and the role of cities and urban regions as drivers of the economy and innovation. We believe that the growth of cities will benefit all Finland and provide economic resources to develop the entire country. We will achieve this through agreements and partnerships with cities. However, in the current geopolitical situation, it is also clear that we need specific regional policy, and we must pay particular attention to the development and economic vitality of eastern and northern Finland by the borderline. So we will have separate programs there. I think that the key to developing Finland's municipal sector as a whole is to look for solutions that are suited to a particular region and that arise from that region's needs. The best way forward is through strong partnerships, not just between the central government and cities or regions, but between the central government, municipalities, cities, businesses, and academia. Third, now that the role of municipalities has changed, we need to rethink the municipal funding system. Following the launch of the Wellbeing Services Counties, municipalities will take over responsibility for employment and economic development services in 2025. This will guide the tasks of municipalities more and more towards boosting economic vitality. In my ministry, I recently launched an overhaul of the system of central government's transfers to municipalities. The system has been modified several times over the years, but its foundation has remained largely the same. In Finland, municipalities have a solid base of revenue from municipal income tax, real estate tax, and a share of corporate income tax. The Wellbeing Services Counties do not have the right to collect taxes, and our government has decided not to look into that option either. Central government transfers make up about 1/5 of municipal budgets. However, this average does not describe the current reality of differentiation. In large cities, central government transfers make up a much smaller part of the revenue base, and at the same time we have few municipalities where central government transfers are over half of the budget. So big differences there as well. On the other hand, the overhaul of central government transfers must respond to the needs of municipalities with a migration loss. On the other, it must respond to the investment pressures faced by growing regions. We will preserve central government transfers to municipalities as non-earmarked funding, as we are now renewing the financial system. When bolstering the financing of municipal tasks, we will favour non-earmarked central government transfers over discretionary government grants. The new system must be transparent and imputed, and it must strengthen the self-government of municipalities. The overhaul must be also cost neutral, and it will not increase public expenditure, and it will promote growth. These are the linings that we have agreed with the government. We will also assess the tax financing of the municipalities, and our guiding principle in this is that as large a share as possible of the tax revenue generated in municipality should remain at that municipality's disposal. However, we must also take into account the vitality of all municipalities and the balance of financing. By now, it should be clear that the task ahead of us is not simple. However, it must be done to ensure that the financing base supports the tasks and opportunities of different kinds of municipalities. Our aim is for new legislation to enter into force at the start of 2026. I would next like to talk about the importance of international cooperation. In our current time, and to safeguard the future of our municipalities, we must look into the world. We must work across borders and improve our technological expertise. Finland's cooperation with Estonia is a good example of this. We can work together to use digitalization and artificial intelligence to improve how municipalities work. This will help them provide services and maintain and improve the quality of life of their inhabitants. Together, we can also find digital solutions to support the green and digital transitions of the municipal level. Finland and Estonia have worked together in the field of digitalization for years. Our countries have exchanged population data since 2005. This is based on an administrative agreement between the Estonia's Ministry of the Interior and the Finland's Digital and Population Data Services Agency. In September 22, we signed a new treaty on the exchange of population data. In Finland, the parliamentary proceedings concerning the treaty have begun, and the proposal for the necessary legislative amendments were submitted to Parliament last month. The treaty will allow authorities to reliably and electronically exchange population data concerning people moving from one country to the other. The treaty has deepened the digital cooperation between our countries, and I hope it will continue to deepen our cooperation as time goes on. The concrete objective we are trying to achieve by exchanging population data is to ensure that people have access to services and benefits based on home municipality without extra visits to service points, and no matter the size of their home community. Our countries are united not only by language and culture, but also by practical attitude to the world around us, an attitude often colored by humor as well. We are not interested in making a big deal about ourselves. When the mood takes us, we prefer to do something concrete. The foundation for cooperation between our countries is solid, but we have the potential to do even more. One example is Estonian everyday ingenuity, innovativeness, which can be seen even in administration. I have heard, for example, that local services in Järva have been organized creatively following a municipal merger. Instead of arguing about what service points to close, we are also having the same discussion in many ways and very deep feelings about this in Finland. In Järva, they made a radical decision. There are now no permanent service points, but services have been put on wheels and they go where they are needed. This is a kind of new kind of everyday thinking that is very interesting to look at also how we can take a new perspective on things. I believe that we should work together even more on effective joint projects. This would benefit both our countries. I'm certain that we have common problems in schools, municipal infrastructure and overall management. To think even bigger, aging populations and services in rural areas are challenges in all Europe. I'm sure that the solutions developed by our two practical-minded countries could find wider markets in Europe as well. For example, the Netherlands are another country tackling practical problems a bit the same way. It's also important to exchange experiences with the Nordic countries, and we do this cooperation as well. Both Estonia and Finland have set national targets for reaching the goals of the EU digital decade. While aiming for these targets, we can all work together to think of ways to develop local services in small languages such as Estonian, Finnish, Swedish and Sami. How can we provide secure and easy-to-use digital services that are designed around the life events of our residents? Dear friends, I'd like to close with a few ideas of where to go from here. I have one proposal of how we can respond to the differentiation of municipal sector, the imbalance of rural regions and the need for solutions in urban regions. Remember, as I talked about the Tampere Maja in Tartu, I think we should establish this kind of mindset of this Tampere Tartu house for our country level, the kind of cooperation, and also to the municipality to municipality. This kind of house would be a birthplace for a new forward-looking era for our tradition of municipal cooperation, in which the municipal associations of our two countries have played such a vital role. And this means good cooperation. It would enable us to use our shared culture to more decisively and effectively find solutions to our shared problems. As municipalities have grown apart, the language of debate has become harsher. This is not a good thing. It is important for small countries like ours to be more internally united. The same is even more true for small municipalities. We don't need to point fingers, we need to find solutions. In Finland, the Finnish Innovation Fund Sitra has examined the democratic dimensions of the governance of the new well-being services counties. The examination highlighted the opportunities provided by deliberative democracy. This means involving customers more closely in the development of services. This can be done, for example, by establishing a resident panel to more quickly assess changes to demand for services. Our government program includes a democracy project that my ministry and Ministry of Justice are closely involved in. We are not moving towards Estonia's election system, at least for now, but we are talking about the relationship between citizens and municipal institutions and officials. The Ministry of Finance is also involved in a project to draw up a joint NGO strategy for the ministries. This initiative is also from our government program. I believe that our countries could also work together to make better use of the opportunities offered by EU project funding. We know that our countries are desirable partners in Europe, but our small size often limits what we can do. Together we could overcome these limits. The principles of good democratic governance adopted by the OECD and the Council of Europe provide an important framework for this. Our government holds a strong belief in the important role that partnerships will play in the future municipalities and well-being services counties. I would also like to see partnerships built across the sea between our countries, and not just between Estonia and Finland, but between the Nordic countries and Northern European countries. Strong municipalities and regions will benefit us all, and learning from each other will benefit us all. By exchanging ideas and working together, we can find new directions for the municipalities where our residents make their homes. We must remember that all of us, we all have our homes in some municipality, and that's why we should think of municipalities as our homes. But dear friends, thank you for this, and I'm open for some questions if we still have time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Indeed, we do have a few questions. So first question from the audience. How do you perceive differences between the area around your capital and eastern Finland, and how are these differences handled?
They are very crucial differences. As we look at the Helsinki region, or the biggest cities altogether, they are growing very fast. They are having the challenges of financing the investments and finding housing for everyone and building enough, and especially right now looking at the economic situation, it's a challenge of for example, housing and having enough services, having the kindergartens nearby and so on. So it's especially a challenge of investment and having the labor force to work there, and they are also getting immigration from a lot more from abroad. Looking at the eastern Finland, they are especially affected by the closing of the Russian border, which they have been the kind of borderline, and before they used to build bridges across the border. Right now the border is the limit, and they are in the very end of the Europe, so to say, so they feel they are far away, and this brings new challenges to the attracting investments, having people stay there, living there, and we are taking different actions there. For example, with the traffic policy, to have traffic connections that support their connectivity to the rest of the country, to have education there, to have youth stay also in those regions, that not all the youth would move to the big cities, because that's the future where we have the youth as well. So we have also these specific programs looking at the economic life and how to boost investments in economic life so that the companies would stay there and see their future there as well.
Can you bring an example? How do you do that? What are the instruments? How do they work?
Well, of course, we use European Union funding in the eastern. Most of our European Union funding goes to the eastern and northern Finland, for example. So we use a lot of European money in that. And then we are also building this kind of new programs there. We are just starting with these programs, so I can't tell all the things that are included there, but we are looking at the specific questions and trying to find specific answers to that. But it includes traffic, it includes education, it includes economic. If there are some investments, for example, in the coastline, in the western Finland, there are a lot of green energy investments going on right now. So how do we have other type of investments? For example, wind energy, it is not possible to build that by the border because of the safety issues and so on. But we try to look at different kinds of investments to attract, for example, in these regions. And looking at the funding as well, now that I told that we are looking at the municipal funding, we are also trying to, at the same time, find solutions how to make it possible to organize the services in these regions, and then how to make it possible to invest in the bigger cities. So we must meet both needs in our financing system, and also with the giving more freedom on how to organize the services. So we try to make it easier for them because they are having even bigger economic challenges in those municipalities.
Well, exactly. You mentioned this asymmetric approach. So how do you differentiate tasks for smaller and larger municipalities? What are the tasks that some smaller municipalities can ignore, or what they don't have compared to the larger ones that still need to handle those as well?
Well, we are not, in the end, we are just trying to start with this work, so I don't have all the answers yet, but looking at, for example, the city planning. In the bigger cities, you need to have a city map with a very strict things. And when you go to the countryside, you don't need to have it so strictly drawn, and it's not so limited. And these kinds of things we can look at even in other services. When it comes to education, there are many municipalities that there are not even a class full of children born in a municipality, and it is difficult to organize the basic education in these municipalities. We try to find, some municipalities might merge, but there might also be forms of cooperation in how to organize together the educational services for the youth as well, so that all the youngsters, no matter where they live, they would still have the kind of basic rights of education. And these kinds of solutions we might find, for example.
Are municipalities happy to join and share schooling? Mm-hmm. Or is it a difficult choice?
I think the schooling part is probably one of the most difficult parts to find the solutions, and we must also recognize that there are, if you go to Lapland, I don't know if some of you have visited Lapland, there are very long distances, and sometimes it might not be especially the city or the municipal mergers might not help any to bring the distances closer, but in some other area the solutions might be different. So we must look at the differences also between the different areas. But the municipalities are very happy to have more freedom. We are very much law. We believe a lot in regulating.
By the book.
Yeah,
just like in Estonia.
A bit too much, at least I think we do. And I think the municipalities have ideas of how to do it smarter.
So you give them more freedom?
We give them more freedom, and that's one of the ways how we might end into the more smart ways of doing things.
Dear Minister, thank you very much. Unfortunately, we have exhausted our time with the questions.
Thank you, and all the best to you. Thank you.